Good day everyone, I'm the Computer God. Today we're going to talk about overclocking. Last week it was the pros and cons of overclocking and how overclocking is not good for your computer. Conclusion. But if you are going to do it, this is how you're going to do the overclocking, or at least how you should do it in my opinion. If you only want to overclock it just a little bit, the most important thing is heat. Overclocking, CPU is hot anyway, very hot, and your system will overheat if you don't have the right fans or heat sink or something in it to cool it down. Okay, and if you're only going to overclock it, slightly, this right here will do. Okay, big ass fan, big heat sink to draw away as much of the heat from the CPU as you can. But if you want to go a little further, you have to do a little bit more. I have a liquid cooled system in mind. Okay, and that is probably the best way to go. And here is a liquid cooled fan for the CPU, and they're big, they're bulky. There are some smaller ones, but this has two fans and quite a large heat sink on it, which the water goes through, so to get the maximum amount of heat distribution to keep the CPU as cool as possible. Okay, there you go. Well, no, there's actually another way to go, and actually you literally, and I've actually read about this, never seen it. It's kind of expensive. You literally put a refrigerator in your case. Literally, there's a, this person built it. I'm not too sure if he bought it. You can actually buy this system, or he just made it himself. Don't know, I forget. But he, like, the bottom of this of the case was just basically a refrigeration unit. Okay, that's going overboard, and that's gonna cost you some serious money. If you're gonna be spending that kind of money, you might as well buy it on the next generation of CPUs. Go top of the line, or save the money and just in 6 months buy another one. Buy a new CPU every 6 months. That's just going overboard. But anyway, yeah, this is good. This is good. Liquid cooled is excellent. Okay, and this is mine. Okay, and that was that. Now, second, that's the equipment you need at the very least, and actually probably put in a few more extra fans in your case is not going to hurt it. Okay. And now I'm going to show you how to actually overclock and the proper procedures to do in overclocking. Okay, there are several different ways of overclocking your system. First, you start up your system, and then you go into your BIOS. And there it is. This is the BIOS of my system. Each system is a little different. Okay, you can see here that I'm actually running my motherboard. It's supposed to be 200 megahertz. It's 201 megahertz. It's slightly overclocked. That is the motherboard. Okay, CPU frequency is a little faster because of the motherboard frequency. Okay, memory is it's running a little slow. I've got to, but that's because I did a BIOS update and for some reason it's not running at full speed. Okay, oops, sorry. Frequency settings. There we go. Now. Okay. And, well, it's supposed to be running at 200. Well, let us go in. There it is. 101 megahertz. You can also, the CPU frequency, you can actually increase this slightly if you want. 22. But you know what? I'm not going to do that. I like that. The CPU if right here. Let us see what we can do with that. There it is, CPU. Okay, and let us from 4. Oops, there we go. Oops. Instead of 4 gigahertz, it's 4.12 gigahertz. And let's see. Okay, ever since I upgraded the BIOS, I'm gonna have to go back. But anyway, this will probably not work because of my BIOS updates. But these are the 3 different ways. Okay, the motherboard frequency, you up it. CPU frequency, and there's the memory multiplier, where you can increase the multiplying, increase the frequency of the memory. Basically, what you want to do, okay, to minimize the damage to your system is only increase. I've actually increased all 3 of them just to show you, and only minorly. But you increase only one of them slightly, 1 notch. Like I've only done these as 1 notch each, just a slight increase in each one. But what should be done, just so you don't damage your system, is only change one of them, just one at a time, and then see how your system works. It will overheat your system and maybe damage your CPU or your motherboard, or both, and crash your system. There are safety measures in this, okay, so that once it starts overheating, your system shuts down. But overclocking any system will degrade the entire system. Just remember that. And mine's is a few years old, and I overclocked it, and now it's not running properly anymore, and I have to get a new system. I'm getting the Zen, AMD Zen. Okay, but anyway, only upgrade one item with either the motherboard or the CPU or the memory. Just pick one. The motherboard will give you the most amount, because not only will increasing the frequency of the motherboard increase the entire overall system performance, but it will also degrade your system the most. It'll cause the most damage. So, you know, be careful with whatever you do. And I'm going to state this, I can't state this enough. Please be extremely careful when you're overclocking a system, because unless you're willing to totally burn and crash your system, I wouldn't do it. Okay? Get a good cooling system in your computer, not only for your CPU, but for your whole system. Okay? Get good quality parts. Getting the cheapest thing on the market may save you a few bucks. And then you might want to overclock it. Forget it. If you want to overclock it, you got to spend the bucks. Okay? If you're thinking about saving some money, and then don't overclock. You're just going to crash and burn the system. You're going to be spending even more money. This is only for people who have the money and are willing to go to the very edge of their system. Anyway, let's go save it, save exit setup, save configuration, and reset. Now we're going to go in here. I've been having some problems. I've upgraded my BIOS and now it's crashing, and my power supply crashed and burnt on me. I've had a lot of problems. Some of it can be pointed straight to overclocking, and my entire system has been degraded. And as you can see here, it doesn't like any of the stuff I did. Not at all. So I've got to go back and put everything back to where it is. Sheesh. Okay. Let's go back to auto. Can we go back to auto? Wow, this thing can... I've never actually taken it this far. Okay, fine. Didn't realize it could go all the way up to the CPU clocking at over 7 gigahertz. Wow. Didn't think you could do that. But anyway, let us go to auto. Okay. And exit saving, and this will get me back into my system with no problems. I would run the system after you overclock it, even minor increments. Run it 3 days, minimum 3 days, I would say a week or two. And then if everything is working fine with no problems, then and only then go up and another notch. It's a very slow process. But as soon as you come up with even a very minor problem, I would just go back and go down 1 notch, 2 notches on what did you overclock, just to be safe. But I can't stress enough, make sure you have enough cooling in your system before you do this. Okay, thank you. And that is how you overclock a system.